Hello, everyone, and welcome to Somewhere in Between. I am your host, Naomi Loud, and on this week's episode, we're talking about intuition and how to become besties with the universe. This is yet again an episode where I'm just gonna vibe it out because I have not been able to work. I've just been really running out of time. But actually, I know exactly what I want to talk about. It's an easy subject for me to discuss. It's spirituality. I'm besties with spirituality. I'm besties with the universe. So let's see where that goes. Let's start with a little bit of an origin story of like what my qualifications are. I am a witch. Okay, your friendly neighborhood witch here. I've been a practicing witch, let's say, for I want to say since 2017. Okay, I've always been spiritual, but witchcraft as like a personal practice really fell into my lap, let's say, around the time of 2017. That's also around the same time I discovered tarot and astrology. I actually discovered tarot before astrology. Fun fact, I did not believe in astrology before, which is very ironic since I am an astrologer. But it's just not something that was like really. It's interesting how it led. Anyways, I'm jumping ahead. Okay. So, witchcraft, spirituality. I come from a very spiritual family. Emotionally stunted, yes, but spiritual also weird mix. Um and so I never shied away from sort of looking for signs and like looking for the signs of the universe or just thinking that there was something beyond. I was not raised religious at all. Um, I think it's because my parents were raised religious that they were like not anti-religion, but they were definitely in somewhat anti-organized religion. Um, but also told us encourage it, but they also encouraged us to sort of just like check everything out and look for everything and wonder about everything. And I think that's like, as much as I have a lot to negative to say about my parents, that was a good thing they did. That was a cool thing they did because it allowed me to just sort of like ponder about life at an early age. Because I mean, I think I was always going to ponder about life, but it was nice to have sort of an environment where that wasn't like looked down upon. And then I realized I used to fall into my spirituality, like dive deep into spirituality only when life was like really bad, when I was like really, really struggling. And it around that same time, like 2017, I think, well, 2015 for sure, around that same time that I started remembering everything, which I talked about in the previous episode, I fell back into my spirituality because um, maybe it's not for everyone, but I find that like having something to kind of like detach yourself from the horrors of your life sometimes and give it a bigger picture was really helpful for me. Um, so I was like really deep into it and I was like researching a lot of things and reading about a lot of things and then after that little bout I realized like why am I always just going back to spirituality only when I like really need it. But I think that's like a human thing. It's like even like people that are not really religious, they like pray when they're like things are really, when they're like down on their luck. But I was like, why don't I just like start having like an actual spiritual practice, like a daily spiritual practice where I had this feeling also that if I kept spirituality close to me, maybe I wouldn't go so dark, so deep. Which, in a sense, no, because it definitely, like, just like religion, you know what I mean? Like, they're all, I can't remember who told me this when I was younger, but they were like, all of this is like a broken mirror. It's all part of the same. It's like we're all holding a piece of a broken mirror And if we would put it all together, we'd realize it's all the fucking same thing. You know what I mean? So it's like, for me, I find it insane that we like fight about like, no, this is what it is, when it's like all the same thing. Like praying, manifestation, like, words of affirmation, spell work, it's all the same. It's just a different word for the exact same thing. Who said that in my books? Bastion. Bastion to Lucy. He said that to her. Quoting Bastion. Anyway, that's for those who read my book. That's from Was I Ever Free? There's this old wives' tale that you have to be given your first tarot deck in order to like start practicing tarot. If that was the case, I would never be a tarot reader because that would have never happened to me. I knew no one. Actually, fun fact, I thought I knew no one that was like into tarot. Come to find out years later. And I did get her deck years later, that my grandmother, who was a Scorpio, would get her tarot cards read every Friday the 13th. Iconic. And she had a tarot deck and I now have it. So I bought my first tarot deck, and at first I just didn't know what to do with it, right? And this is all going to lead back to intuition, but this is still in my like little lore dump. But yeah, I just didn't know, like I was really dependent on like the descriptions, right? Of like, ooh, what does that mean, And I didn't trust. This is a thing. I find that like tarot and astrology are tools for you to use to like lock in when it comes to your intuition. Do you need your tarot deck to figure things out? No. Do you need astrology either? No. Sometimes I'm like so not far off, but disconnected from astrology, and I make like big decisions, or I make these decisions or whatever following my intuition, and then I look up the astrology and it's like right on fucking cue. You know what I mean? So it's like it's that expression of like, so as above so below. It's like everything is all the same. It's like a mirror. Also, we're reflecting each other. Astrology doesn't happen to you, it's just happening, and it's reflecting through our behaviors. Anyway, what the fuck was I talking about? Oh yeah, so yeah, tarot. Then I really utilize, okay, another fun fact. I feel like I'm going to be bing bong bong everywhere here. But another fun fact, if you're into astrology a little bit, is if you look at your Jupiter, that is the way that you sort of approach your spirituality. And my Jupiter is in Gemini. So the way that I approach my spirituality is through collection of information. I like desperately need all of the information. And that's how I connected with my spirituality, versus let's say my husband, who's a Jupiter in Pisces. He seems to just kind of know these things. You know what I mean? He seems to be just like tapped in already. He doesn't need to read the book. He's also a huge trippy guy. So there's that. He's been connected. But yeah, so it's interesting to see how different people connect to their spirituality. So for me, it was books. Surprise, surprise. So I utilized my library card, and I would spend my day perusing the aisle of the library and picking up every single book I could that had to do with tarot. And that's also why I'm like, when people are like, oh, well, how did you get here? It's like, how else do you think I did? By like looking it up. Like I'm very anti-AI, but I'm very, very pro the internet. Like utilize podcasts. There's so many podcasts out there about every single thing. Every time I had a question that I was like, maybe there's a deep dive about this. YouTube videos, bro, I was on YouTube all the time. Like, yet again, I hyperfixate. So I was like consuming so much information. But all that to say that there was this tarot book that I read that really opened the door to me, because it was like this stupid little title that was like, learn tarot in an hour. And I was like, okay, whatever. And so I read it, but it like cracked the code, because it made you, so the first thing they made you do is you go through You just go through card by card, just by yourself with it. And then you ask yourself what, because the illustrations, the pictures on the tarot are there for a reason. There's a bunch of symbols, a bunch of signs. So even just that, you're connecting to your intuition by just seeing what is coming up for you. So then it's like, okay, what's your interpretation of this card kind of thing? And then you'd go through every single card. And it was a practice of sort of like stopping. It was basically, it was trying to make you stop using that little booklet as a crutch, right? And it made me realize that, like, yes, obviously, there's a standard description, a standard definition of every card, but also there's layers upon layers that you can put onto that card if you're interpreting it by yourself. Like, you can add your own spin on it. And that's how you start your tarot. Um, that's how you start your tarot practice. Like, and also it's like pick a card every day or every week, and every week there's like more lore to the card, because you're like, oh, and then you connect this to your life, and it's like, it's really not like, it's not a party trick, really. It's really just a tool to harness your intuition. If you're enjoying this episode, I highly suggest you subscribe, like, share, or leave a review even. Heck, tell everyone. Also, you might be interested in all of my other little creative endeavors. I am an author of 8 books, romance. They're available on my website, naomiloud.com. And I also have a poetry club, which is a snail mail club that you can subscribe and receive a print that I personally drew that is directly connected to the poem that you receive, also that I wrote myself. It's very whimsical. It's very cute. I highly suggest you check it out. So that's how I got into tarot. And then when I realized that there's like so many symbols and so many signs, so it's when I started diving even deeper into the lore of tarot and reading up on the symbols attached to it. And then I realized, oh, astrology is actually connected to tarot. Every card has an astrology association. So that would add even more meaning to the card. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, the world, it's connected to Saturn. Oh, well, what does Saturn mean? What's the archetype of Saturn? You know what I mean? So then that's how astrology sort of was cracked open for me as well, because I wasn't that interested in astrology before that. And the way that I got into astrology first actually was the moon. I started following the moon. I started following the moon signs, the waning, waxing phases, which I still do. Obviously, I'm a very moon heavy girly. Cancer moon. It's in my DNA. So I started realizing that, oh yeah, my emotions would shift. I would feel different on a new moon versus a full moon. And for someone that has such a wave of emotions, and it was a way for me to sort of not control the emotion, but like sort of be like, okay, kind of see it coming, kind of see the wave coming. And also it was a great way to start detaching from the feelings, from my emotions, because I'd be like, oh, okay, it's the new moon, I'm feeling darker, I'm feeling less da 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 da, you know what I mean? It'll pass. Also, the moon really teaches you that everything shall pass. This too shall pass, you know? So you are not your emotions. You just need to sort of like sit back and observe it. So that's how I got into astrology. And yeah, so then when I started studying tarot, then that's when astrology was opened up, and I was like, "Oh my god." It's because I never realized that, like, for me, like being like, "Oh, you're a Leo and this and that and that." It's interesting to me. Like, I know how to read a fucking chart. Obviously, I used to do it like fucking a bajillion times. But to me, that's not what's interesting. Astrology for me is a very abstract concept, and the more that you study astrology, the more you need to know. It's a never ending quest of information. And I think that's why I always fall back into astrology, because my Jupiter in Gemini loves that there's always information, there's always another question. And I like more the abstract concepts of astrology versus like what I call a little bit more of a party trick astrology, where it's like, oh, your son is in this and this is how you blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Then I just became a witch. Then I discovered through the moon I discovered witchcraft, and then I discovered spell work, and all of that sort of grew, and that's how I harness my intuition. Do you have to become a witch to harness your intuition? Hell fucking no. Okay? If it's not your path, it's not your path. But do everyone have a special tool in their fucking pocket called intuition? Absolutely. And like, oh, how do you start talking to the universe? You know what I mean? You just do. You just have to start. And the thing is that people people let their logic control their lives a little bit too much, and intuition is not logic. And so like let's say there's something that happens and you're like, "Oh my god, that really felt like a sign from the universe." Well, then it did. There's this like very interesting, if you're a fan of The Good Place, I find that there's something that is mentioned in The Good Place that I find is a very interesting take on intuition, but it's not about intuition in The Good Place, but it was like um it was one, spoiler alert, but it's an old show at this point. Like, please watch it. It's an amazing show. Um, but there's this one thing where the man, I can't remember his name, but the one that's like the devil type, like the demon, who's helping the architect, is seems to have turned evil, but they're like, no, we need to trust that he's actually on our side, and he is, okay? And it's only because Eleanor figured out his signs. He was sort of like dropping hints, and he was like, "Oh my god, how did you know?" And she was like, "Oh, I figured out your hints like this." And he's like, "Oh, amazing." And then he says something like, "Oh, actually there was like apparently like thousands of hints, but humans," he's like, "But you humans only picked up like 2 or 3, you know?" So, and I think that's what it is with the universe, where the universe is constantly talking to you at all times. It's like because we're human and we're limited in our like extra sensory fucking perceptions of things, we're only picking up on like one or two, you know, and also we're just like distracted, and we're not always looking for a sign, right? So they have to kind of be like very obvious for us to be like, "Oh my god, that was crazy." But when you start looking for them, if when you start opening your eyes to them a little bit more, more subtle signs happens for sure. Um and also intuition, I find that like, and this is going to be annoying to hear, but this is coming from someone that was extremely anxious. Unfortunately, I find that like if you're anxious, it's really hard to listen to your intuition. So the first step, just like in the last episode, I said the first step to healing is to heal your body dissociation. Well, the first step in really harnessing your intuition is to work on your anxiety first, because your anxiety is your mind telling you telling you things are wrong, versus your intuition will always feel right, you know? So it's like, oh, is this my anxiety or my intuition? Well, does it feel right? Or do you feel like you're being fucking possessed by this? You know, anxiety is so different. Anxiety is like really in your mind, and your intuition is really in your body. So like healing, also your body dissociation will also help you connect more to your spirituality and your intuition, because unfortunately everything really happens in your body. Like I can, like when I make a decision now, or someone tells me something and I'm not sure about, or I'll always know the answer always comes into my body first. Working on your intuition really has to be is body work. So it's like there's no, and that's the thing too, I think, is, and that's the beauty in it, is that there's no magic trick to become more witchy. No, like, no pun intended, but it's like there's no magic trick. It's really just like trusting in yourself. And also, it's like in our society, especially a patriarchal society, where women and non-binary people who are female passing, let's say, are we're taught to like not trust ourselves, And because, and also, if you start trusting your intuition and really listening to yourself, what does that do but give you a lot more power, inner power? And they don't want that, right? They don't want you to feel powerful, obviously. So it's like it's a way to say fuck you to the patriarchy too, um to harness your intuition, girl. Fucking do that right now. I dare ya. And so I have a little trick for you to try if you want to start trying to kind of connect more on your intuition. I used to do this on walks sometimes, where I have this thing where it's like I'm conspiring with the universe, right? It's like this active dialogue involvement. And I used to be like, okay, to practice also opening your eyes to the signs, you'd be like, okay, and you choose something really crazy like a green hand, okay? And then you'd try to find that, and eventually you would. And sometimes it would happen in the craziest ways. Like, sometimes I would do it, I think it was like the number ones I did, like I wanted to find, like I was like, okay, I'm gonna find a number 8. Like, okay, universe, let me show you like a number 8, but it was like it couldn't just be like a fucking address on a house or whatever. And then I walked past a park, and there was this huge balloon in the number 8, you know, and things like that. And why I said green hands is because I think I did that once. I was like a green hand, and then we were at this tattoo shop, and there was this green hand on a shelf. So it's like things like that. It's like those little tricks are like, they're fun. It gives you sort of like, it's whimsy also, it's very whimsical, but it's like it gives you this like fun little thing to do to sort of practice that muscle too, sort of like, you know, because it is a muscle. Intuition is a muscle. You have to just practice and practice and practice. And it's like, okay, well, where do I start? Start anywhere. Really start anywhere. And also, it's the same for if you want to learn tarot or astrology or get more into spirituality. Where do I start? Just start somewhere. Literally just pick up a book, watch a YouTube video, listen to a podcast, because that's going to lead you to another thing, that's going to lead you to another thing, that's going to lead you to another thing. It's like everything that's worth living for is not instant gratification, and that's a thing. And I think that's something that we've like lost in the past like decade, is that like instant gratification will never beat like a lengthy internship with yourself. It's like everything worth living for is long term, is something that you have to like work on. And it's you get the gratification comes later, but also learning is part of the gratification. But that's just me, you know. I love learning. I'm a big learning nerd, you know. Like for me, life is learning. What else am I supposed to do here but learn? Or else, hello, what am I doing here? Boring, get me out of here. JK, maybe. All right, my loves, that's it for today. I hope you have a beautiful week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.